Then you're going to do an exercise. If you have taken Finance 301 from me, you've seen how I've done it. You're going to pick a desired level of return. Let's say you want to make 12% a year. Okay? And divide that by 52 so that it's weekly. Find the set of weights for your 7 stocks that has the minimum risk. And in this case, we're going to measure the risk by MAD, mean absolute deviation. Number 9 does the same thing, except you're going to use as a risk measure what we call the expected loss on a long position. It's basically the average of returns below, if you're doing that, is that 95%? Let's see. Yeah, I'll change that. Because that expected loss number depends upon the choice of probability. Come on. As you know, I've done this in class. It's basically the average of returns in the past, given that below the fifth person. That means 95% of the returns are above that number. That's your 95% VAR anyway. And if you take the average of whatever that was below it, that is, bless you, that is your expected loss. It's basically a measure of tail risk. So you're gonna essentially form 2 portfolios, given a set of expected returns, your average return. A then minimizes median absolute deviation. That's an overall measure of risk. The second one is a portfolio that minimizes the tail risk. And if you don't know how to do it, quite a bit of you haven't taken Finance 301 from me. I actually have the lecture video from last semester that I covered that. You can watch that. Somebody in your group already knows how to do it. That's fine. You can teach each other that. The purpose of these homeworks are not just to make you do busy work, but also kind of learn some new skills. And that's pretty much it. And just briefly talk about why do you think those weights are different? What does that tell you? Anytime you look at summary measures like that, there's a story there. Tell me what that story is. This is not an English class, so I'm not going to worry about your grammar or spelling or anything like that. Trust me, that is rare. Years ago, I had to take a class so that I could be certified to teach online classes. So goddamn waste of time, but you have to do it. Plus, they gave us something on our development fund. And one of the assignment was, you're gonna write an assignment and then write a rubric so that you can grade that assignment. There was a guy who was teaching chemistry, okay? And this is just basic intro organic chem. And you look at the rubric, about 40% of the grade is based on English. It is chemistry. You don't need that much English. And in a lot of cases, students in STEM classes are not that good in English to begin with. Years ago, I was doing PhD in econ at Boston College. There was a course that I had already taken, so I didn't take that one. To replace it, I took a course in mathematics, logical foundations of math. basically, it was a class where you proved that 1 plus 1 was equal to 2. And some others. There's some great stuff. If you're ever into that, just look into Gödel's equilibrium states. It basically says no system is complete. Any mathematical system that is more complicated than counting numbers cannot prove that it is itself consistent. You always need outside help. And it also says there's an undecidable theorem. On any system that is more complicated than counting numbers, there exists statements where it is possible to prove that statement is true and also not true. Because these systems are axiomatic. Axioms are stuff you take it to be true. For example, in Euclidean geometry, 2 lines are parallel. If 2 lines are parallel, they never intersect. But in non-Euclidean geometries, that's not necessarily the case. Anyway, so learn that kind of stuff. What was I saying? So if you have any issues in writing that stuff, just when you're writing a little story, don't just repeat what the numbers are. I can read the numbers. That doesn't give me anything. Just tell me what you think those numbers are telling you. When you go work somewhere, whether this is a finance job, accounting job, insurance job, you're going to write reports based on numbers. And put those numbers into context and tell a story about what they mean. That's kind of the purpose of these assignments. A, to kind of make you learn new stuff, because I've already done all of it or most of it in class anyway. And if you haven't taken Finance 301 from me, you can watch that video and make that gap. Technically, whoever taught it should have taught that. Unfortunately, that's not a guarantee. I had students in Finance 301 who took Business 302 from somebody else, who have not heard about just the CAPM model or cost of capital. Not had. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I kind of put a lot of Jeopardy stuff in the middle. I still am able to cover it. All right. Read those. If you have any questions, let me know. And, if you kind of get hung up on something, don't just get depressed. Shoot me an email. If I'm up, I'll answer. I typically don't go to bed before midnight, except the weekends are mine, okay? If it's really an emergency, start saying this is an emergency, then I'll make time. I'm sorry, weekends are for my girlfriend. I don't own my own weekend. She gives me the menu for the weekend 1 week ahead of time. This week is special. On Saturday, we're going to do pizza. On Sunday, we're going to do a lot of little snacks. Somewhat of an amateur gourmet chef. And I don't say that lightly. I'm probably better in cooking than I am in Excel. Think of it that way. All right, let's continue with our option pricing. Now, these are nice little things. As I was telling before the class started, I ended up making quite a bit of money on Palantir. Let's kind of do it. Setup mode, okay. The stock was trading around, actually I don't have to guess. I know exactly what the closing price was on Monday. And I'm on a hardline connection. This is not a Wi-Fi issue. I have much faster internet at home, and I have the lower end of the spectrum. So on Monday, before the earnings were announced, it was 1675. And I had a strike of 37. This is 01 26 26, I think. No, yeah. The implied vol was about, let's call it 60. Let's take interest rate to be 5. This says 162, but it was a little bit higher than that. This option pricing formula prices a European option, but the ones that are trading in the market are American, and they may have been using a different interest rate as well. But let me actually to get the implied volatility to give the market price on the close of that day. So I'm going to go back to when the solar mode is green, the whole thing works to give you the implied volatility given the price. When it is red, given the inputs, it gives you the price. Well, until I had the earnings announcements on Monday after market close, they beat the expectations by about a cent, not even a cent, half a cent. Market was expecting about 7.5, they announced 8. But the guidance was pretty much as expected, maybe encouraging. And the stock jumped about 30%. A lot of it is probably short covering. About 5% of Palantir float was shorted. And if you want to know that, you can always go to financeyahoo.com, enter the stock when it comes up. Let's close these Blackboard stuff. I'm also having resource issues.